Hi, I'm Travis Young. I'm the owner of Reborn Fitness Club. I'm a father of a young boy called Jet. He's 2 years old. I opened this 10 months ago. We're now at the new bigger premises of Reborn. We have close to 200 members, but it wasn't always happy days for me as I was an addict. I had a great upbringing. You know, there wasn't anything out of the question. I was able to do whatever I pleased because I was the youngest of four, so I got away with murder most of the time, especially with my mum. She let me do whatever I wanted. I never had a problem, well, I never thought I had a problem with alcohol, with coke, with prescription drugs, with gambling, up until I was around 20 years old. But before then, everything was going well. So when I was 19, I studied. I did my personal training course. That was done. I did that quite easy, but I never really put anything to it until I was 21. When I was 21, I started training two girls at a park with nothing but a couple of dumbbells, a couple of cones, I think it was, and then some rubber bands, and that was all I had to start with. And that's all it was for a couple of months. There was two girls at a park twice a week, $40 a session. I soon started doing more boot camp, more training sessions, and I started doing training outside of my parents' house in the downstairs area. I built that up, you know, got some equipment, and it was doing, you know, moderately well. But I wanted to dive in and go big. So, you know, only within like a year of you know starting, I was already looking at a factory, and I had a couple of mates. I had a cousin that was a personal trainer. I had a mate. I met someone when I was playing football, and you know, we decided let's go for it. And that's where Keep It Young was born. Like I'd been running out of my house as Keep It Young, but that's where it was born. Was Keep It Young was at 3 Box Road, Tarrant Point, and a lot of good times there. For the first 2 years, it was me and AJ just having fun. You know, it was a good business that took care of itself, so to speak. We didn't actually know how to run the business. For the first year and a half, we didn't even know what BAS was. But it was all good times. It was fun. It was, you know, it was social. It was doing what we love, and that's when I fell in love with fitness. It was right then. Like when because of sport as a kid, I was good at it, and I was playing football, and you know, I had fun doing it. But I was now doing something I loved every single day, and I was doing it with my mate at the time, and it was, you know, every day it was fun. We were getting paid to do something that we loved. So that's when the love for fitness really took off, because I was going to work, I was having fun, I was training myself, I was having fun training myself. And then we started getting the results with our clients, which just really emphasized my love for the fitness industry. So that's where it all started. It was two and a half years of Keep It Young to start with, and we had a lot of fun doing so there. So during the times of Keep It Young, you know, we were 2 years deep into the business. Things were going well. We wanted to expand. We wanted to go further. Around this time, my drugs addiction and drinking was definitely not a problem compared to, like, drinking and getting on drugs was the social thing to do. It wasn't abnormal to do it, and it wasn't like I was doing it more or than anyone else. I was doing the same as everyone else. I was drinking just as much. I was going on these tours and with OzTag for footy. You know, I was hanging out with my mates from football on the weekends, and everything I was doing wasn't more than them. It was like I said, it was normal. It was also it was more or less frowned upon if you didn't drink, if you weren't a part of the game. You know, if you weren't a part of taking the drugs. So it wasn't until I was 21 until I had my first line, and then I wasn't worse than anyone else my age. I was just like any other 21-year-old. I was doing the exact same things every other 21-year-old was doing. I didn't even have my first bender before then. It wasn't until I moved out of home and I didn't have the parents to come home to when I was 21. When I moved out, that's when things I could start seeing slip a little bit more. My gambling addiction was probably the first one that I knew that there was problems there, because a lot of the times when I was out, it would consume my night. It was, before I knew it, I was sitting in front of a poker machine and I wouldn't leave that machine until I won. So there was signs early on with my addiction, but when it came to drinking and going out, especially with cocaine, I struggled to drink much when I was younger. Not as much as the boys. I couldn't keep up. But then once I found, cocaine, that could keep me out for a little bit longer, I started using it more and more. So it wasn't until 2014 that things for my drug addiction really started to spike. And around that time, I would start using more when it went from this much to almost double within 6 months. After 2 years of living out of home, I was now living with my then girlfriend, and it was just me and her. And this is the time when the benders started. I was now able to not only go from Friday night through to Saturday night, I was even starting to venture into Sunday nights. So that's where it all started. I had all the means. I had money. I was able to get my hands on rack whenever I needed, and things started to get worse and worse. Training wise, I was always training just as hard. At the time, I thought that was a benefit, but in another way, it was just disguising my problems that were starting to arise. So I'd now been living out of home for 2 years, and my partying ways had escalated, 5 times the amount before I was living at home. I was now able to bender for 2 days, but I got the news that I was going to be a dad. So the plan was move back in with the family, save, so that I could provide for my family and start a new life that way. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. My partying ways, even though I'd moved out of home, they came back with me. So I'm now living back at home, and I've got a kid on the way. My addiction is just soaring out of control, and I get the news that a mate of mine that I was training at the time had passed away, and this hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a very tough time, and the only way that I thought I could cope with my mate's death was to escape. And this is where it really started to hit home that my way of escaping was now drugs. I was now getting high on rack twice as much as I was before. This started a spiral that was a downward spiral that was very slippery. For weeks and weeks on weeks, it was bender after bender, and it was purely to escape the pain of the death of my mate. And this was all leading up to the birth of my son. I pretty much partied my way right up to Jet's birth. And I literally partied up until the day my son was born. I went on a bender from a Friday to a Sunday. I was home by the Sunday evening. Went to work on the Monday, and I was completely toasted. I was wrecked from the weekend. I just trained with the boys as well on the Monday afternoon, because that was how I also coped. Was if I trained, that meant I was okay. So I trained, went home, fell asleep, and about 1 a.m. Em woke me up, and she said her water's broken. So I get out of bed, I'm like a zombie, I'm not even really, no feelings. I'm numb. I'm still numb from the weekend. I take him to the hospital. I get sent home because it looks like it's not going to happen for a while. And 22 hours later, I'm at the hospital, and Jed's been born. And what should have been one of the most beautiful moments of my life, I was still zombied. I wasn't quite there. As soon as Jed was born, I took a photo with Jed, and he was taken away for whatever. I sat down, and I was that tired from the bender, not from what just the labour. Men don't do anything in labour. It's all women. As soon as I sat down, I passed out. I fell asleep. For the moment when my son was born, I was too zonked out from the weekend. I didn't spend that moment with my son. You would have thought that from that moment that I would have learnt, that it was time to wake up. It didn't even hit home yet. The addiction had got me by the balls by that stage. I didn't even think there was a problem really. I thought because I'd be able to stop drinking and getting on it for a couple of weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was I was doing at the time for the gym, I could stop drinking and doing anything I wanted during those times. That I didn't have a problem. But that moment there just shows how far gone I was already. And the next couple of months got even worse. For my son's first probably 6 months, I was barely even around. I was partying. I was not in a good way. I had depression, and I was too scared to admit it. And again, to escape, every single weekend, I was just compiling the depression with more problems, with more drugs. I was taking more. I went to finish the bender. I was having more prescription drugs so I could go to sleep. It was going from having, one Zenny to having 2 or 3 Zennies, a Valium, 2 Valiums, 3 Valiums. It just kept escalating, as well as the length of the time. It just kept getting worse and worse. And to make all this even worse, to add fuel to the already out of control fire, I was in love with someone else. And I knew publicly that this wasn't the right thing to do, because I just had a son. And I was in love with someone else, and I couldn't share that with anyone. So I was living, 3 different lives. I was still trying to be, I could say I was trying to be a good dad, even though I was very, very far from that. I was trying to run a successful business, which I don't know how was working at the time. And also I was in love with another girl. And I was trying to be happy with her and try and start things with that as well. But this all came on top of me not long after. But before things got really, really bad, they actually got better. I broke up with Em, and I made peace with myself that I knew that, I just didn't love her anymore, and I wanted now to be with Chloe, and that was set in stone, and I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking around November and I did not touch a thing for 3 months. 3 months, and before that, it was full-blown chaos. It was, you know, it was the toughest time of my life, but I was acting like everything was okay, and that was the hardest part. It was acting like everything was okay when it wasn't. And so 3 months of off the drink, I never had felt any better than I did then. I was training harder. I was doing three different training styles. I was playing football. I was doing hard training sessions when it came to weights, so hard strength sessions. And I was also doing sprints, which I've always loved as a kid. But amongst all this, I was still having prescription drugs. And this is where the prescription drugs really took over. Because I thought I wasn't having cocaine and drinking, I thought I was healthy. I was sober, but because I was sore from training, I was sore from this, I was having the Valiums, I was having unknowns, and I was getting my hands on whatever I could. And before I knew it, these were becoming a part of my daily life. And I was having, 3 or 4 Valiums with a Zenny and an endone at night before I was going to sleep. And then it got worse and worse to the point where I was having 2 Zennies, 2 endones before dinner, and then having more after dinner. So by the time I got to 8 o'clock at night, I was just a full-blown zombie. But I thought, when the next day when I woke up, I was bouncing off the walls because essentially I was still high. So this 3 months, although it was the best I ever felt physically, it was the calm before the storm. Because this was the time where I thought everything was peachy, everything was going to be okay now. Me and Chloe are going to be all good, and there wasn't going to be any problems. But then one night I went out and had my first drink for the 10 weeks, and it was like I had never left. So I'd come back after 3 months off the drink, and I'd hit the ground running. It killed me. I did just as much drugs, if not more, than the time before when I finished off, the 3 months sober. And this time, I really crashed. I went to work the Monday and I struggled at work. I was tired the whole day, and I just thought, it's just a bed and I'm just not used to it. But this was like no other. The next on Monday night, I went to sleep and I woke up at 8:30 in the morning. I'd missed 3 PTs, 2 classes, multiple phone calls, and I just didn't know what was right. I just thought I'm just tired. So I got up, went and did the last session, and came home, and again I was so tired I fell asleep again. I didn't wake up for another 16 hours. It was then I realised that I'd got myself really sick just from that one big bender. I had chronic fatigue because I was training so hard before that. I was eating that many prescription drugs. My body was just didn't know what to do, so it just completely shut down on me. So I got chronic fatigue, and this was the time when things started really getting very blurry for me, and depression started setting in real bad. I was sleeping all day. I could. It took me half an hour to gather the strength to get up and go have something to eat, or take myself to the toilet during this stage. And I was losing a lot of money. I couldn't go to work, and I had people having to work for me, and it was a tough time because I wanted to work. And before this, I'd never felt better, and now I never felt worse. I was so tired all the time, but to my stupidity, I was still having prescription drugs. Because I was asleep all day, I was thinking, shit, I can't sleep at night. What do? I have prescription drugs. So this went on for a month or so, and it really didn't look like it was getting any better. And things in my life took a big turn for the worst after this, because I then got news my grandma, known as my pawpaw, had two weeks to live. And I'd already already was in a downward spiral when it came to drugs, and I, again, to deal with this and to mask the pain, I started getting back into the cocaine, even though I had chronic fatigue. But if I was having the cocaine, it actually was able to keep me up. So I started in this 2-week period that I was given to see. I should have been trying to see my papa as much as possible. I was still getting high. So it was a Thursday night, and I was on it actually alone by myself. When I found people to party with eventually, but that's how it started. I was alone, and it was a long weekend, and I partied all the way through on a Thursday night. Got to the Friday night, went in, met up with a couple more boys and just continued. So I hadn't slept through Friday night all the way through to Saturday morning. Saturday morning, I was still going, and I was freaking out that I hadn't gone and seen my papa. So I made the stupid decision. I drove to the hospital high to see my grandma, and thank God she was asleep since she didn't see me that way. That's how delusional I was. I thought it would have been fine for my papa to see me like that. Anyways, after I left the hospital and continued on my way, partied all through the Saturday night. It wasn't until the Sunday morning, and I'm talking like Monday morning, like early Monday morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd still been going. It was the first time I ever thought, shit, I could die here. And at that point, like I wanted to die. So, I'd been masking all weekend long. I'd been, getting on it to escape from all these problems, and I solved nothing. And I just wanted to all be over. I went to sleep. I passed out eventually at home, and I drove myself home and got into bed and woke up about 12 hours later to my sister shaking me, saying get up. Papa's only got a matter of hours to live. And again, in a moment when I should have been there, present mentally, not just physically, I wasn't. I went to say goodbye to my papa. And I was still struggling from the weekend, and I was like a zombie again, just like I was when I was from my birth of my son, but this time even worse. From the prescription drugs and everything else that I've been doing, I was shot. I was a shell of a human. I lost probably 10 kilos, maybe more. I wasn't working because I was sick, and I just lost my papa. So I then told myself, that that's it, no more rack, I'm done with it. 2 weeks passed, came to the funeral, and that was my time to make it up to Papa. I got to speak at the funeral on behalf of all the grandchildren, and thank goodness for that, because I would never have been able to live for myself to know that that's the way I sent out my Papa was in the state I was. I spoke well at the funeral, and that made things a whole lot better, because I got to give her the goodbye that she deserved. So I'd now become socially awkward. I hadn't worked for close to 2 months, maybe more, and for the first time in my life, I had social anxiety to the point where I didn't feel comfortable in my own gym. I didn't feel comfortable in my own home. And this is a build-up of the amount of prescription drugs I was having. I smashed my immune system, and now I was taking away all my confidence, and my anxiety, which I never had anxiety before, was through the roof. It was one day I was at my sister's baby shower, and I had all my family there, and I love all my family. I got a great extended family. You know, there's 50, 60 of my cousins out there, and I've never felt more uncomfortable in my life. There was only one person through this time that I felt comfortable with, and that was Chloe. She see me like, I had to leave my own family home during that time. I couldn't handle it, and I had to go just lay in bed with Chloe in the middle of the day because I felt so uncomfortable. And that's when I fully felt my worst. I felt physically destroyed. I was a shell of a human being. I was completely depressed. I was so socially awkward. If I saw someone I knew at a cafe, or if I was at a cafe for a fleeting moment, if I seen someone, I'd hightail it out of there because I didn't want to see them anymore. I didn't want to speak to anyone I knew. You know, going back to work was so scary, and it was something that I loved so much in years before. So I got to the point where I was constantly hiding. But the worst thing was when I was out in front of people, if it happened, I was so fake. You know, oh no, I'm okay, I'm fine. Smile, you know, yeah, I'll put the weight back on, and it'll be all good, I'll be fine. Everything was okay, you know, just chronic fatigue, that's all it was. But inside I was dying. My ego was still too big to say to someone, shit, I need help. I need to speak to someone about these problems. You know, this depression, the social awkwardness, the drug problems, the gambling. Everything was still well and truly alive.